There are people who don't like the way that windmills look. And there are people who believe that they look like Brancusi sculptures right across the hillside.
I personally think the wind turbines are beautiful. I get a good feeling when I see them. I get a feeling of kind of almost like relief, a feeling of gratitude.
And you just think, wow, that's creating a cleaner atmosphere for our children, for our family.
Show me a really beautiful coal mine. Show me a lovely oil field. Show me a nuclear power plant that is any of the aesthetic value that you can attribute to wind turbines.
In 2006, the people of Washington State passed an initiative called the Energy Independence Act. Commonly known as I-937, the act requires all but the smallest electric utilities to get at least 15% of their power from renewable sources by 2020. It's a great goal. But how are the utilities, the ones that we, the voters, ordered to make this change, actually going to get there? What does this kind of change look like? Puget Sound Energy invited us to follow the development of one part of their I-937 solution, the Lower Snake River Wind Project, the largest wind farm to date in Washington. It will power, on average, 100,000 homes.
Tell us about your wind shot.
Energy is amazing. I like how they thought of Pomeroy as they are putting lots of windmills out of town. I like how it's just the windmills and the blades. And it's pretty cool how you can go up in the mountains and see all of them. You can get up close to them.
Thank you for joining all of us here to celebrate Phase 1 of the Lower Snake River Wind Project.
1, 2, 1, go!
I did not like wind, because wind always reminded me of trees being down, poles being down, wires being down. This town here, you know, we've harvested wheat and barley for a number of years, and now we're going to start harvesting that wind. And I think that's a good thing. And it goes along with the ever-changing lifestyle that we're going to have. You're always going to be changing from time to time. What comes after wind, I have no idea, but I'm sure there'll be something.
Harvesting the wind isn't a new concept. 7,000 years ago, Egyptians harnessed the wind to sail up the Nile. 2,000 years ago, Chinese and Persian farmers used windmills to pump water and grind their grain. The first wind turbines to generate electricity were pioneered in the late 1800s. Since then, wind development has coincided with wartime fuel shortages and later with growing concern about the pollution and price impacts of fossil fuels.
25 years ago, wind was, for utilities, really for anyone, was an R&D project. And about 10 years ago, we really felt that that technology had come to a point where it was what we would refer to as utility grade, meaning it was reliable, it was efficient enough.
Since that tipping point, the worldwide wind industry has grown tenfold, and that growth is projected to continue. By 2016, nearly 500 gigawatts of wind energy, the equivalent of 1,500 Lower Snake River projects, will be online around the globe.
There is a hunger in a great many places to find some models that honest-to-God work, give you full employment, give you adequate food, give you productivity and creativity and comfort. The things that we look for in society. And the Pacific Northwest is particularly richly blessed in that regard. It's an area where wind makes more sense than it does in many other parts of the country. And as a consequence, an intelligent utility will go out and take advantage of that.
I'm very excited that we are getting a relatively local source of energy. When something is made in Eastern Washington, I feel that that's local enough for me. Made in Washington.
It's very important that we have an energy company that's out there looking at alternative sources. So with PSE going into the wind projects, to me it's a no-brainer. It just makes great sense to me that they are doing something that's actually tangible.
It makes a lot of sense to invest in green energy and wind power. I'm very interested in that for that reason, that it doesn't cause pollution and it is a renewable source.
It's not wind at the sacrifice of agriculture or wind at the sacrifice of wildlife. It's really this combination of wind power that goes along with other traditional practices and uses for those lands. That's the exciting part for me about wind power, is it can work in combination and in harmony really with the existing environment and the existing landscape.
I was in the service and went to Vietnam, but I didn't fight for Eastern Washington. I fought for the whole United States. And that's my feeling right now for power. Whatever we're doing, it's for our country, our United States. I mean, that's what's dear to me, and not Western Washington or Eastern Washington. I mean, I think you have to think bigger than that.
The Garfield County landscape is rich in wheat and wide open spaces and the ever-present wind. But its population is the lowest in the state, 2,269 as of 2010, or only 3.2 people per square mile. As in many farm counties, it's a graying, shrinking population. Young people move away to find work. While we on the west side of the state may see wind as an ideal source of clean energy, in Southeast Washington, it's about transforming the economy.
These wind projects coming in, you know, the skyline is going to be forever cluttered, and that in it of itself isn't very appealing to me. But as a businessman, as a county commissioner, you know, Garfield County and Pomeroy are really distressed. These wind projects are going to infuse people, money, and a lot of good things for the county.
When you talk about 20 to 25 new jobs in this community, that's going to generate an explosion of sorts in the local economy. Truly, it's going to change the face of the economy here in Garfield County.
We visited neighboring Columbia County, where wind farms built in the past decade by Puget Sound Energy and by Pacific Corp have already had a powerful impact.
Without the wind industry here in Dayton, I think we'd be a poor little town. So that's what Pomeroy is going to see. I think they'll see the same thing that's happened here in Dayton.
Definitely a sense of hope. There's also a great appreciation for the tax rates, how the tax rates have declined because of the value that the wind projects brought to our tax base.
We have 204 windmills in Columbia County, and that almost doubled the value of our property in Columbia County. So that adds a lot of extra tax dollars that we can put to use on roads and other infrastructure projects.
Now the ones that you saw at Hopkins Ridge, they're 130 feet long. And from the when my family and I moved to Southeast Washington, it was to work at the second wind farm in the Pacific Northwest. And then Hopkins Ridge generates. And since then, that's 10 years ago, there are 50 wind farms here. That's Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. When lots of people now seem to be moving more to bigger cities, here are some new opportunities for people that want to stay in rural communities.
The wind rush in Columbia and Garfield counties began a decade ago when experts showed up to measure the famously steady winds that blow at the Turner family farm.
Well, it'd be probably 6 years now that we have been farming around the turbines, and there isn't any crop that we can produce out here that comes even close to the return of what those wind towers will produce on a per acre basis. We've used it as a tool in budgeting, and we've used it as a tool to help sustain the farm, and my son now here is home on the farm. So that's really nice to be able to have your grandkid only living 300 yards from your house.
It's truly is great to see that you can have a modern wind facility working side by side in an agricultural environment that's been around for the last 100+ years. And they pretty much work seamlessly and in harmony with one another.
Prior to the wind energy being here, if you graduated from high school here, you left because there wasn't anything to keep you here. My ancestors came here in about 1869. They settled in Olympia County. I'm the 7th generation. My kids would be the 8th.
Miranda Bowen and her family have now moved from Dayton to Pomeroy, where the day starts early.
I think that Pomeroy offers a lot for their youth, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. When Puget Sound came to town and there was this great job, and it's just, perfect timing with when I was going, this is a fantastic job, look at all this. And then, a year later, it's like, holy cow, we got really lucky.
Here, she'll monitor turbines at both Hopkins Ridge and Lower Snake from PSE's new operations center. Planning, permitting, and design of the Lower Snake project took several painstaking years. When we started filming, a whole new network of roads was being built, the beginning of a 2-year whirlwind of construction.
Looking at the new construction, it's a little more than talking with other farmers too that have roads on their property. They're freeways for us country boys that they're putting in, and we understand they have to do that to get those big towers in there.
There's no free lunch. We're not going to be able to do renewable energy without expending some energy to put the infrastructure in place.
During construction, more than 150 people a day, sometimes more than 250, were working on the Lower Snake site. That's an army in a county with a population under 2,300.
My dad's been gone about 5 years, and I've thought oftentimes, I wonder what he thinks if he's looking down at this and wondering. There's been more change right here in the last 3 months than there has been in the last 10,000 years.
And yet, despite all the disruption of the construction phase, 98% of the nearly 22,000-acre Lower Snake site will remain unchanged. And biologists are watching closely and working hard to mitigate any effects on wildlife.
We have a number of raptor nests in the trees. There's one in that tree right there. We've done a number of surveys and monitored those nests to make sure that construction activities don't have any adverse effects on the nesting raptors.
Birds, bats, deer, and elk will all be closely watched during and after construction.
But overall, it's pretty limited in terms of its impact.
There are some drawbacks to a project this size. For the farmers, though the wind turbines will mean extra income, as much as $10,000 to $20,000 per turbine per year, depending on the wind, and their footprints are relatively small, about an acre, they will also mean a forever changed horizon.
I was one that was a little bit harder for me to let go of, when you change the vista. The fact that where we live is very, very remote and private. We need electricity, we need renewable energy, and we have the best to offer. Look at it as growing another crop, you know, then it's a little bit different, but I'm coming around.
Behind our shoulders here, you can see a lot of haze out in the distance. 3 years ago, that wasn't there. One of the complaints, nobody wanted to look at the turbines. Well, if it keeps this up, you won't be able to see the turbines if things don't clear up the atmosphere some way.
You know, as farmers, I think we're all real environmentalists, and we see this as a good thing.
The Lower Snake project will help fulfill the state-mandated goal of a 15% green portfolio by 2020. It will also bring about 25 permanent family wage jobs to Garfield County. And the wind income will help preserve family farms and small-town life in this historic region.
It's tough making enough money to keep a hired man. Some of this added income to the farmers will bring back some sons that went away to make a living, and where the farmers will have a little more money now to maybe entice their son back home.
Now, our son lives here in Pomeroy, and I think he always would have liked to have farmed. We never really encouraged it. We encouraged him to get another job and where he would have more benefits and to be a little more secure, but we're hoping that someday, you know, that we will be able to pass the farm on to him.
While wind is already tangibly transforming the economy of Southeast Washington, here in Western Washington, the change might feel less dramatic, but it will make a huge difference to customers in the long term.
We have needs. Our population is growing. That's fantastic. I think our economy will rebound, and we're going to need to invest in new sources of generation. Wind needs to be a part of that portfolio. Wind is not an alternative source of energy. Wind is mainstream.
It's good for the consumers to have a diverse portfolio of energy resources available so that we continue to have lower cost energy.
Nobody thought that a wind project could be a least cost resource. We're held to that planning standard, and we found the right projects.
All these new green renewable resources are what we want to have our money being invested in, so that that's where all of our energy is coming from in the future.
Alternative renewable energy is the future, right? That's where we will be going, that's where we are going. You know, as you look at, we're in a transition period between moving from fossil fuels to renewable.
Morning, Spanky.
Hi, honey.
How are ya? 171, please. Here you go, darling. It's hot.
We see at least 300 employees from the wind turbines through here every day.
Yeah. Good morning, Mark. My husband got a job with the wind farm. He's in training. He's in North Dakota. He does the maintenance, so he's on with the Siemens contract for 5 years minimum. You're good to go.
It's not uncommon for them to call at 6 o'clock and say, can you feed 100 of us at 7? Sure.
We started this project in May of last year, and we spent most of last year building the roads and the foundations. This spring we've started the delivery and the erection of the turbines that you see here. These turbines are significantly larger than anything that we have put up before. We are, I think, pretty close now to the limits of what can be transported on the local roads.
Hopkins Ridge was 87 turbines, and this will be 149 turbines.
At our Lower Snake River wind plant, we're employing the Siemens 2.3 megawatt turbine, and that is a turbine that has some advanced technologies. It's very cutting edge.
People kept asking, well, are the wind towers coming? Are they coming? Are they coming? And it's like, okay, folks, they're here. We don't have to wonder anymore.
For Pomeroy School Superintendent Kim Spock, the Lower Snake River Wind Facility will mean stable enrollment, more tax dollars, and a future for his grads in their hometown.
If you have a family of 3 or 4, one may come back. So now the wind towers give the kids the opportunity for 2 or 3 to come back if that's what they're interested in.
You look up and you go, you know, that's gonna help us in the long run. It's gonna help this community. It's gonna help everything.
And then go down here and start our pitch controller.
Students can get the skills they need 58 miles away, where Walla Walla Community College is now offering degrees in wind energy technology.
I enjoy watching this industry grow because when I see these turbines, I see jobs. Now we're starting to rotate, we're starting to get going.
At 43, in a million years, I never thought I'd have the opportunity to go back to school and get trained in something that's so exciting.
E-stop to Prest.
I came over for worker retraining from Seattle through the VA hospital, utilizing my veterans benefits. I was a CB, Mobile Construction Battalion, Desert Storm. I've always loved climbing. Now I get paid to do it.
Come to school and to have guys really interested about a capacitor, about a transformer. It's something I know about, and I get the opportunity to share this with them. I couldn't ask for a better job. I mean, it's been a perfect job for me. You're going to see farmers' children that don't have to work on the farm to stay in Pomeroy. They'll have other options.
I love this program. This program gave me nothing but smiles from day one. It's hard to explain how much this is going to help me in the future.
Just looking to see these hills out here, you see all these towers come up, and I grew up riding dirt bikes around these hills, and now to see all these roads and turbines just popped up everywhere, it's just, I really like the idea of wind energy. It's clean.
On February 29, 2012, the Lower Snake River Wind Facility began to generate power for Puget Sound Energy's 1.1 million customers. The total price tag, including the upgrades to the BPA substation and grid, $830 million.
The power will go from these turbines through the substations that we're building into the BPA grid. And then once it goes in the BPA grid, we will be paying BPA to basically transport the power back into the PSE service territory.
With Lower Snake now online, back here on the west side of the Cascades, PSE's customers are now receiving 10 to 12% of their power from renewable sources.
So that to me is really important, the fact that they don't ignore the fact that times are changing and that our community is aware of the differences in what type of energy we're receiving and that we care about what's going out into the environment and that we want to make these changes and that they're offering it.
I care deeply about the environment that my kids are going to be growing up in. I think 10% is really not enough. I would like to see that increase.
I use a lot of energy here at the restaurant, both gas and electric. Our community is very committed to finding alternative means of energy. They feel good about coming and buying their meal here because they know that in some form they're contributing to that as well.
We use a lot of electricity. In the ice cream business, refrigeration is one of our major expenses. I'd rather look at a windmill than like a belching smokestack, right?
We've got to have something that we can say yes to. That's not to say that there are not environmental costs attached to wind and to hydro and to solar and to geothermal, but dramatically less than with the competing sources.
It's a triple play. It's good for the environment, it's good for our national security and independence, and it's good for consumers and jobs.
I feel blessed as a resident of Garfield County to be part of that process and part of what's moving us into the future as a country.
There is no silver bullet, and it's not partisan. It's going to be, we're in a fascinating transition period right now of figuring out how to develop an energy strategy that's diverse, that's American, that will provide energy as we continue to grow in a way that keeps the environment as beautiful as it is now, but allows us to build a vibrant economy.
I do not believe that you can build a ridge somewhere and say this is east and this is west. It's a case of we all working together and all sharing in a common bond to get things done that needs to be done for the state of Washington.
generator, the nacelle as it's called. Very proud to have all this manufacturing going on in this country.
When they very first brought all the big blades in and all the pieces, there was just a great shock and awe type thing that you just can't believe how big they are. But now they've just kind of blended into the landscape. And you know, if we're going to make ourselves independent on energy, this is part of the process. And gosh, if one of these machines keeps one man from being killed in some war because we're fighting for energy, then I think they're well worth it.